welcome to the meeting. My last time or no?
Here I are. If you don't make fun of me, I'll be mad.
Hey, did he make new coffee? Did he make newer coffee?
I did. It's gone again.
What? What the hell we got? A bunch of addicts or
I
what?
think there might be one cup left. Oh, really? It's going fast.
Yeah, did you want me to break it out?
Because I usually post something like a little before the meeting saying it's about ready to start. Oh, okay. I'll use you. Just put the head of it right here and then hold the handle so you'll be like way in the background.
Start calling him Cast Your Hammer.
Right about there.
Is that okay?
Wonderful. It actually looks like a really big beer mug. I better go up higher so we can see the sun of the head.
Yeah, see that there.
No.
Yeah.
Now you got a better idea of what it
I
is.
like the beer mugs. It looks like one of Ron's mugs.
I don't want a bad image of my mayor out there.
I really like that thing. I'd be ashamed to even bang it too hard.
I don't think you'd hurt it.
No, I don't think so. He did a nice job on the laminates.
Okay, now what do we have?
Oh yeah, that's our mileage on the vehicle.
Okay.
You bet. Yeah. Well, we approved and I looked at this, and then now it's the final purchase. We're having the Northern May thing, which I'm hoping will be
Can we correct that? If I make a remark, we'll be on the record today.
Yeah. Go ahead and say your 2 cents worth. I'm good with it.
I do not know. I do not know.
All right, we're gonna have fun tonight.
Did we hear anything about the accident?
I haven't heard anything.
I'll check with
There
them.
wasn't it yet.
Well, what?
Accident call
All I heard is it happened.
happened and kids went down.
I just moved to South Carolina. Mike is moving to South Carolina.
The bus wasn't too bad.
By the way, do you have any copies of that ballot?
Smashed.
Of the what?
Ballot question.
For ours? I have a draft.
Because Steve called me up this morning and told me it was out. He had a copy of it.
Well, he's got a draft.
I'd like to see, I mean, I hear all these questions that yeah, I was amazed when I heard about Mike having his house.
What you been up to? How you working? What you been up to? Right?
Yeah, we did. No, we still.
And then I found out his house was on
Last weekend. And went.
Plus, he's one of the ones.
Dr. Williams took the turn off toward the Grand Canyon, side of the valley, and then on the right there, 180, I think it is, came in around
Well, you know, that's
crazy. And then dropped down through Oak Creek Canyon, Sedona,
What's the
and then back
forest?
up to Jerome.
What's the forest?
You know,
It isn't bad. I thought it was gonna be worse because I thought a lot of it burned down by the creek.
Not me.
It didn't, it just scraped across the top.
I said, okay, good, you wanna go? See ya.
Cliffs, but that's why they couldn't do anything with it. You know, it was all burned on those sheer cliffs.
Do you know him, Mike? He didn't know who he was. I saw him over at that car show, and I yelled to him. He looked
Glad to see Norm.
over the blanks there, and just kept on looking. A few days later, I saw him at the senior center. Early as I went up and said, "Hey, how you doing?"
Well, you know, you got to swim
I
straight.
know, but they told him he had recovered.
Hey, Harv, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Good morning, young fella.
He was the big recognize him, that's why he seen him.
Oh, I thought you were.
No, but he's
My daughter just sent me a text. Some guy in Alaska just shot a huge
and I saw him at the senior center.
with his
You know, I thought he was normally at the car show at the senior center there.
Probably not intentionally.
Well, no, and then it's like, because I saw him a few days later, I was like, he didn't recognize me when I was standing right next to him. It's a shame. And he got liver and onions coming up in a week or two ago at the senior center.
About time.
I'm still showing one. Oh, I'm showing 6.
We're here, bud.
Ready? Okay.
Light the tires, kick the tires.
You guys ready?
Whenever you are, sir.
Okay, cool. Ready, ladies? Okay. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please rise and remove your hats for the invocation. Father God, we come before you this night asking that you watch over the deliberations of this council. Father, help us to be good stewards of the work that you've placed before us. Father, we also ask that as we observe this week and approaching the date of 9/11/01, that Father, you would be with the families that have been left behind, the families and friends that have been grieving. And Father, please help to continue to heal America up from that terrible attack. Father, we also thank you for your protection of the school children up in Paulden in that accident this morning. What a blessing that no one was injured more seriously than they were. Father, please be with us as we go through this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Miss Lewis, may we have the roll call?
Yes, you may. Good evening. Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Wojcik.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Croft.
Here.
And Mayor Marley.
Here. Will we have anyone calling in tonight?
No, Councilmember McKee originally was going to, but she is going to be unable to tonight.
Okay.
Can we memorialize the absent folks too?
Yeah, I suppose we could. We need to memorialize the folks that were not here tonight.
Okay, absent tonight is Councilmember McKee and Councilmember Hatch.
Okay, thank you very much. Introductions, presentations, and proclamations. Proclamation declaring September 22nd through 26th, 2014 as National Employer Support for the Guard and Reserve Week, sponsored by the Arizona Office for Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. And I'll grab out that proclamation, and if the folks will please come forward. I believe it's Tony Morrison. This is one of my favorite proclamations. Is this thing working? Okay. This is one of my favorite proclamations. Employer support of the Guard and Reserve Week. I was telling Mr. Morrison earlier this evening about how we sponsored a young man in the National Guard, and he went over and did a hitch in Afghanistan, and he's back with us now, so what a blessing. Whereas the National Guard and Reserve forces comprise nearly half of our nation's military strength and are essential to America's national security, Reserve component forces stand ready to answer the call to serve, whether serving alongside active duty counterparts all across the globe or responding to humanitarian crises at home and abroad, and whereas employers provide critical support to members of the National Guard and Reserve, allowing citizen warriors to serve wherever the nation calls, often foregoing financial gain and making sacrifices in the process, and whereas employer support is stronger than ever, more than 42 years after President Richard Nixon authorized the Secretary of Defense to establish the National Committee for Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, ESGR, and whereas our nation is in debt to the citizen warriors departing the comforts of home to ensure our freedoms remain intact. Excuse me. Likewise, America pays special tribute to the commitment of dedicated and supportive employers who continue to make service in the reserve components possible. And now, therefore, I, Chris Marley, Mayor of the town of Chino Valley, do hereby declare September 22nd through 26th, 2014 as National Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Week in Chino Valley, Arizona, and urge all of our citizens to recognize this observance. Yes, sir. Thank you much. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Here, you want this one now?
All right.
Did he want to say something?
Oh, sure. Here you go, sir.
I'll say just a few words. I'm an old military guy, and I remember when President Nixon did sign, the employer support for the Guard and Reserve, and that was done because of the all-volunteer force, and that was in the early 1970s. Now, I was a tanker, and as a tanker, I was in some training. I was a young officer. I still had hair then, and my tank, the support that we got from any auxiliary groups at that time was a bumper sticker that was on my tank, and it said, "It's fun to be friendly." Okay, that was the support. Okay, then all of a sudden they realized that if the all-volunteer services was to work, they needed some support from other organizations, i.e. the family, the employer, the military, soldier support. So, and I say soldier because I'm an old Army guy, rather than military service personnel. But that's what happened, and that's why we have the employer support for the Guard and Reserve. That's why we have the family support groups. That's why we have support for soldiers. And the climate of the support for the soldiers has changed considerably since the days of the draft. Now, we're kind of a unique organization in that we represent the soldier or the employee as well as the employer. And we're the go-between for the employers and the Department of Defense. And most of our cases are through the uniform. So if we have a problem, we try to get an ombudsman, and we represent, as I indicated, both the employer and the employee, and we try to work out to the best agreement as possible for all parties. But without the support of the employers, you're just not going to have a volunteer military service. And again, sir, I thank you so much.
Thank you. I was telling Mr. Morrison earlier, I pointed out our vice mayor, and I said I was in the Navy, and it was due to old Navy chiefs like the vice mayor that I'm as squared away as I am, and Mr. Morrison's wife thought that was humorous. It was
That's a
like
lie.
There needed to be more squaring away, I suppose. I could be worse. Okay. Our next proclamation is National Patriotism Week. Do we have anyone from the Order of the Elks? Yes, ma'am. All right. Whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, through its constitution, is a patriotic order, and whereas the order promotes the ideals that the citizens of this nation live in freedom, won through the great sacrifices and many tribulations which have provided the foundation for a free, prosperous, and independent life, and whereas we realize that each generation must work to maintain this freedom, otherwise through carelessness or indifference, the rights and liberties enjoyed may vanish, and whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize this freedom and to honor the nation which provides it, now therefore I, Chris Marley, Mayor of the town of Chino Valley, do hereby proclaim September 8th through 14th, 2014 as National Patriotism Week in Chino Valley, Arizona, and during this event urge all citizens to join with the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks in expressing gratitude for the privilege of American citizenship with appropriate celebrations and observances. Okay.
Oh.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for squeezing me in at the last minute. I was a little late at getting this. As he mentioned, we are a patriotic organization, and we keep a constant presence in Chino Valley. One of the things we're doing right now are handing out dictionaries to all the third graders in the area, including Paulden and Ash Fork and Seligman. Later on, we'll be passing out red ribbons to all the students in all the schools. So we'll be giving out thousands of those, and that's to promote drug awareness. Just say no to drugs. In addition to that, we have a big function coming up the last Wednesday in September. We're going to be honoring the first responders, the police and fire department. So please remember that we're out there and we're always looking for new members. Thank you.
Thanks. Our next item is call to the public. Call to the public is an opportunity for the public to address the council concerning a subject that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. Individuals are limited to speak for 3 minutes. Total time for call to the public may be up to 30 minutes per meeting. Council action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or responding to criticism. Does anyone wish to speak to call to the public? Okay. Yes, ma'am. And please state your name if you would.
I am Beth Vickery, Arizona Miss Amazing Preteen Queen 2014. I want to thank all my sponsors for sponsoring me to go to the National Miss Amazing pageant. I also want to thank Marson Motor for driving me in the territorial Day Parade.
All right, thank you. If you have not had the opportunity to meet this amazing young lady, please take a few moments to meet Elizabeth. She's a joy. All right. Are there any others for call to the public? Yes, ma'am.
Not as tall as my child. I'm Elizabeth's mother. I'm Suzanne, but I'm here on a different topic. I am the superintendent for Department C for the AFPI Fair, which includes Chino Valley, and we are looking for people to come and help us at the fairgrounds. We need volunteers every day of the fair week, which is September 22nd through September 28th. And I have a fair book, and I have a schedule with my contact information on it, and I will leave it. Should I leave it with you, or should I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm supposed to look at you, Chris.
Yes,
so I'm gonna leave these with you guys,
okay.
And then if anybody would like to volunteer, you can contact me. My phone number and my email are on this paper, and I'd really appreciate your help. Not just my department, but other areas of the fair need help. And if anybody wants to enter, we're definitely looking for entries as well. So that would be a great help to our community. The fair doesn't exist for the children to participate in unless we have the adults helping. So we really need a lot of our volunteer staff has been there for 20, 30, 40 years, and a lot of them are retiring. And in a few cases, we've had a few that have died in the last year. So we really, really need some more volunteers to help out.
Cool, thank you.
Do you want me to leave these with you?
All right. All right. Any others for call to the public? Yes, sir.
I'm Rick Nichols. I live in Chino Valley. I'm Secretary-Treasurer of the Chino Valley Model Aviators. I'd like to invite the public to come out to our field, which is 3 miles east on Perkinsville Road, this Saturday, the 13th. We have an air show going all day. It's free to the public. We'll have aerobatic airplanes, helicopters, jets, airplanes with real jet engines, and all kinds of things going on that day. It's free to the public. You can get in and enjoy the day. I suggest you may want to bring a chair. We do have limited bleacher facilities, and there will be a food vendor there. That's not free. One of the highlights of our day will be rededicating our field. Over the past 2 years, and we recalculated today, this year we put close to $50,000 into our facility out there. We leased this field from the town, and they're very generous with renewing our lease when it needs to be done. Last year, we put about $30,000 into just repaving our 800-foot runway. So one of the highlights will be Mayor Marley helping us rededicate the field Saturday morning. If you want to come out and see Mayor Marley at his best, 9 o'clock's the time to be there, and there'll be a lot of fun going on all day. So please come out and have a good time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. The highlight is that he told me I have less than 5 minutes to speak. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask the question, where do the funds come from for all of the work that you put in? Just from the membership?
To answer that, where the funds come from, last year we raised $30,000 just from the membership, and we have a membership of 116 guys. So some were very, very good contributors, and others did what they could. This year, the funds come from one member that we have, and he's able to do that. It's kind of his passion. $10,000 of it is coming from the club, the membership. So we have one very generous man that has helped us with this.
Pretty neat.
Okay?
All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? No. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there's no others for call to the public, we'll now close that. And go on to response to the public. Response to the public is an opportunity for the mayor to inform the public about how town officials addressed matters raised during call to the public at a previous meeting. Last meeting, one of our citizens expressed concern that his First Amendment right of free speech was being restricted insofar as it pertained to speaking on agenda items. Now, for our audience benefit, I know some of you don't come regularly to town hall meetings, but Arizona open meeting law requires that the council hold its meetings in public, that those meetings be noticed, and that there be a published agenda for each specific meeting. But it does not require that we have a call to the public. It does not require that we have a response to the public, and it does not require that we allow public participation on agenda items. When we do those things, the law allows us to, but it doesn't require us to do that. In order to conduct the town's business in an efficient and timely manner, the chair, which is the position that I occupy, the chair routinely has a staff presentation, a question and answer period between council and staff, and then discussion among the members of the council, and then the vote. On occasion, the public is asked to provide input prior to council discussion, but this isn't always the case. Recently, when we were discussing zoning requirements for subjects such as recovery homes and medical marijuana growing facilities, we requested public input because we wanted to hear what you had to say on such a hot button topic. And I asked, during those periods, I asked the audience to give us their alternating views. I would ask for one person who was for a certain subject to come up and speak, and then one who was against. And that way our council could receive balanced views, because I feel that that's only fair. They ought not to only hear one side of the story. Mr. McCauley, the one who had raised the question, fortunately for Mr. McCauley, has served on the Highway 89 Bond Committee, the General Plan Committee, Planning and Zoning Commission, so the community has opportunity to hear his thoughts on various subjects. But not all of our citizens have that privilege or have the time to do that. So for the rest of our citizens, I would encourage you to talk with your council members, share your ideas and your concerns with them, and that way those concerns can be addressed during the time of council discussion. These folks right up here are your council members, and if you communicate with them and let them know how you feel, call them, email, talk to them, whatever it takes. This is your government. They need to know how their citizens feel. And if you stay quiet and wait for somebody else to speak, that other person may express an opinion that's contrary to yours. So be active in your government. Participate in it. All right. Current event summaries and reports. This item is for information only. The mayor, any council member, or town manager may present a brief summary or report of current events, or ask a staff member to provide the same. Presentation on information requested by the mayor and council will be made and questions answered. No action will be taken. Do we have any reports from any committees on this side? No. Any reports from committees on this side? Okay. Town manager, do you have a report for us?
Just briefly, Mayor, I wanted to thank the committee that pulled territorial days together. We had a great time. I and my family were there. And I'd also like to thank the Public Works crews and the EMS guys for the work they've done in helping us manage the water. It's been dangerous out there on the road, and it's been difficult to manage, and we've seen other communities with incredible damage. Yeah. And I just wanted to reach out to our employees as well as the EMS folks and say thank you for a job well done.
You bet. Thank you. And those of you who haven't been by it yet, the new walking park over on Perkinsville Road, Lake Gritman is about 2/3 full. We need to plant some bass in there. I'm just kidding. It won't last a week. Yes, sir.
I'd like to have Mr.
Into your microphone.
I'd like to have Mr. Smith address the hurdle that we've passed here with the NACOG grant for Old Home Manor. That some of the citizens might be interested in that.
Yes,
Thank
sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council, Councilman Wojcik. We presented information to NACOG recently seeking the regional board's approval to submit an application to the Economic Development Administration to create jobs in Chino Valley. And we're looking at bringing infrastructure back to the Old Home Manor property in the hopes that we might be able to address jobs that are industrial, heavy commercial, sort of a light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing nature. Not what you would see on 89 with commercial and retail, but what you would see is base level jobs that create wages that people could feed a family on. And we were very successful with that, with the Economic Development Committee's help as well as Councilwoman Hatch's help. And we're looking forward to a submittal date in the next 60 days to the EDA.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving onwards to consent agenda. All those items listed below are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Any council member may request to remove an item from consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. I believe item B has been pulled already by Ms. Watts, and so it would be items Alpha and Charlie. Does any of our council members wish to pull any of the consent agenda items? No? No? All right, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda items A and C, Alpha and Charlie.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. Item 7A, continued from August 26th, 2014. Discussion and possible action to address a complaint filed by Vice Mayor Croft pursuant to Town Code Chapter 35 Code of Ethics, Section 35.04, Conduct in Public Office, Paragraph D. And that's sponsored by Mayor Marley and Vice Mayor Croft. I believe, Mr. Croft, you wanted to address that this evening?
I would, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to explain my reasons for completing this complaint and some background information. So I'm going to read some pertinent sections of the Town of Chino Valley Ordinance number 13-768 dated April 9th, 2013. It's Town Code, Code of Ethics and Communication with Staff. The first part is Section 3502, Responsibility of Public Office. A, by oath of office, each representative is responsible to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Arizona, and the ordinance and regulations of the town. The public official shall perform his obligations in a manner that is impartial and responsible to all people. I'm going to go to another section called Conduct in Office. That's Section 35.04, and I'm going to read Section B. The public official shall respect the rights, privileges, and opinions of his or her fellow officials, staff, and the public at large. Council members shall exhibit respect for the public, other government units and agencies, and the professional and ethical conduct of the town manager and staff. Priority dictates that the public officials shall be sensitive to the possible confidential or personal nature of directives addressed to other individuals. In bringing honor to the title and in recognition of the weighty respect due the role of public official, those elected to public office shall, 1, lead by example, 2, demonstrate civil and courteous conduct at all times, 3, seek and speak the truth, 4, respect all people, 5, accept responsible dissension as a civic right. And now I'm going to go to Section D. All public officials are expected to honor the mandates set forth in this Code of Ethics. Complaints alleging violations of this chapter shall be received in writing by the mayor and or the vice mayor unless they are named in the complaint, and in that circumstances, such written complaints shall be received by the town attorney. Complaints will be addressed by the council within 60 days of receipt. Since I am a party to this complaint, I did address this to the mayor, and that's what we have. And I'm going to go back now, and so you'll understand the complaint. I'm going to read the complaint. And this is date August 17, 2014, from Darrell Croft, Vice Mayor, Town of Chino Valley, to Chris Marley, Mayor, Town of Chino Valley. Subject, formal complaint concerning Town Council member Linda Hatch. And it reads in the body, during August 12, 2014 Town Council meeting, Tracy Shimaszkowski, President, CEO, Chino Valley Area Chamber of Commerce, called the Chamber, made an informal presentation concerning chamber activities conducted for the town of Chino Valley, the town. Later in the meeting, Ms. Shimaszkowski presented information concerning the accountability contract between the town and chamber, which describes services to be rendered to the town by the chamber, for which the chamber would be compensated by the town. This working relationship has been in force for several years. As Ms. Shimaszkowski presentation proceeded, Councilmember Hatch asked some pertinent questions about the accountability contract, which were answered by Ms. Shimaszkowski. When Councilmember Hatch continued to question Ms. Shimaszkowski, her demeanor and tone changed and became rude and abusive. The setting in the meeting room seemed to morph from a council chamber to a courtroom, and Ms. Shimaszkowski was a person on trial rather than a professional member of this community conversing about offering services that support the goals of the town of Chino Valley. Councilmember Hatch continued to pose questions such as what was Ms. Shimaszkowski's salary, which were not germane to the subject of the discussion. Her manner of dealing with visitors and staff in open meetings have come to question in the past. Councilmember Hatch's behavior was embarrassing to me as both a council member and a member of the board of directors of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. Since this incident has been approached by both, I have been approached by both chamber members and business owners concerning about the lack of professionalism displayed by members of this town council. If it is viewed such by our citizens, it must be evident by any person or business that is looking at Chino Valley as a place to build a future. The resolution to my complaint, a reasonable resolution to my complaint, is for Councilmember Hatch to publicly apologize to Ms. Shimaszkowski and to refrain conversing in an intimidating manner when discussing town business with visitors and staff.
Okay.
Since she is not here tonight, I would like to make a motion to table this till the next meeting.
Okay.
It's evident that by her absence that she might not want to deal with it.
Okay. That's correct, sir.
This is the second time it's been tabled from the last meeting.
Okay. We have to hold order here, okay? As a body of elected officials, the Chino Valley Town Council is extremely limited insofar as our authority to self-regulate the behavior of our council members. We've been placed in office by the people of the town, and we can only be removed from office by the people of the town. This establishment of our written code of ethics was a long and painful journey. It took us over a year, and took from April of 2012 to April of 2013. And we finally have guidelines that establish how we interact with one another, how we interact with staff, and how we are to interact with the public. I believe that that's probably our best bet, is to table this until our next meeting, Mr. Croft. You made the motion. I will second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and it will be on our next meeting. And I believe this, to a certain extent, touches on our 60-day timetable. We have a 60-day timetable to deal with complaints, so you may come to 60 days worth of council meetings where we don't deal with this, but we'll get it done. All right. And I realize that violated Robert's Rules of Order because I'm not supposed to talk about it after we had the vote. So here's my hand, Chief. You can slap. Okay. All right. Yes, sir. All right. Moving on to item B, consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 14-1045, authorizing the mayor to sign all documents related to the submission of a grant application to the Arizona Commerce Authority Rural Economic Development Grant in the amount of $250,000 and pledge 10% of the qualified costs and matching funds not to exceed $90,000. Matching funds will be budgeted for upon receipt of the grant. And Ms. Mayday, I believe you're up.
I am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have the draft application for the grant with the the Arizona Commerce Authority. For the Rural Economic Development Grant, we've applied for this once before, and while we weren't successful, we were very close. This is essentially the same project, same application, only larger because we are going to ask for more money from the EDA. In terms of policy, this matches with the Chino Valley Strategic Plan, Key Result Area 2, which talks about sustainable economic and community development. Also, the General Plan 2013 talks about enhancing local businesses. And finally, the Strategic Plan is specified as a source of funding. This grant application is specified in the Strategic Plan as a source of funding for infrastructure improvements for Old Home Manor. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay. Are there any questions on this side? Oh, I believe.
Oh, yeah, we can click. Oh, I can click now. I keep forgetting I get to click. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is where Old Home Manor is. The shooting range is out here. It is north of, on the north side of Perkinsville Road, east of 1 East. The improvements that this will be funding in part will be the extension of water and sewer service. Water will come this way, sewer is going to go up to the wastewater treatment plant, and we will also be extending a natural gas line to provide natural gas service to the park. And we will also be extending Road 4 North, East 4 North, across the Santa Cruz Wash, so that we have a secondary access. And these improvements were suggested by EDA, and so we've included them in this project as well.
Am I correct in understanding that this was one of those rarities where they said you didn't ask for enough money?
They called me and said, spend more money.
All right.
I can do that.
Excellent. Are there any questions on this side? No. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, the chair would now entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt resolution number 14-1045, authorizing the mayor to sign all documents related to the submission of a grant application to the Arizona Commerce Authority Rural Economic Development Grant in the amount of $250,000 and pledge 10% of the qualified costs and matching funds not to exceed $90,000.
Okay. We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you, Ms. Mayday.
She's still there.
She's still there.
I'm still here.
Okay. Consideration and possible action to approve funding agreement with the Arizona Department of Housing in the amount of $275,000 for the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. Funds to come from Arizona Department of Housing. Ms. Mayday.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have the funding contract between the Town of Chino Valley and the Arizona Department of Housing for the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. We were successful with our submission, and we were awarded $250,000 for repairs and $25,000 for administrative fees, for a total award of $275,000. This contract is their standard contract for governing how the money is used and the reporting that's required. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about the contract.
Okay. No, I think it's been in front of us several times now, hasn't it? Yes. Do you folks have any questions? No. Any questions on this side? No. All right. Yeah, I think this is our third or fourth look at it, so the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to authorize the mayor to sign all documents necessary related to the execution of the funding agreement with the Arizona Department of Housing for the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program, and authorize staff to take all actions necessary to complete the obligations set forth in the funding agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll give these folks a moment that are needing to wander out. Not you.
The what?
Okay.
Some were leaving.
All right.
Past his bedtime.
We got to cut Harvey a little slack there. All right. Item D, consideration and possible action to approve the leasing services proposal from NBAZ Public Financial Services, a division of Zion's First National Bank and affiliate of National Bank of Arizona, and lease purchase agreement, and approve resolution number 14-1042, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement and all related documents necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by the agreement. Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is Resolution 14-1042, approving the lease purchase proposal from National Bank, their Arizona Public Financial Services, or Zion's First National Bank, and an affiliate of National Bank. As you know, in the budget, we had budgeted to acquire equipment this year for a total of $765,000, including a loader, dump truck, and some police cars. The Public Works Director has worked really hard and actually got the total amount down to about $714,000. So the next agenda item, he'll explain the specifics of which equipment we'll buy. But tonight, we're recommending approving the National Bank proposal. We did receive 3 proposals. Theirs was the best, 1.93% for 5-year term. And the amount is right now at $714,963.04, but that could be subject to change after the next agenda item.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Duffy? Yes, sir.
We got this addendum sheet?
That's on the next.
Huh?
The next one.
That's on the next item?
Oh, it's the next, okay, I'm sorry.
All right. We will have lots of questions on the next one, I'm sure. Any questions for Mr. Duffy?
Nope.
No? All right, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
All right. The chair would now entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the leasing services proposal from MBAZ Public Financial Services and lease purchase agreement, and approve resolution number 14-1042.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to item E. Consideration and possible action to approve the purchase of 4 Ford Police Interceptors from Burge Ford in an amount not to exceed $115,473.60, or $28,868.40 each. 2 Ford 550 from Burge Ford in an amount not to exceed $111,512.50, or $55,756.25 each. 1 John Deere 544K front-end loader from RDO Equipment Company in an amount not to exceed $166,503.38, and 1 410K backhoe from RDO Equipment in an amount not to exceed $107,898.66, and 1 10-wheel dump truck from Empire Machinery in an amount not to exceed $180,000, for a combined total of $681,388.14, all financed through a lease purchase agreement with Zion's First National Bank. Mr. Gritman.
We tried to come up with a longer agenda title. I think we could have.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is, as you know, we've been working on limited equipment for literally about 7-8 months now. Our loader has gone down. We've been renting one on an as-needed basis. We're down to 1 dump truck. We're just in desperate need of some equipment. So that's what this item is to bring some equipment to Public Works, to utilities, and 3 new police interceptors to the police department.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I remember when we first brought this item up, I asked if those police interceptors were fast enough to catch Councilman Turner's Harley, and I never did get an answer on that. So, all right. Were there any questions? Yes, sir.
I'm confused because it says we're not to exceed the 4 police interceptors, not to exceed 115, and this sheet here says 45 times 4, 180.
Yes, sir. Did that sheet come from Ron?
I'm not sure what sheet you're referencing.
I don't know where this came from. Somebody gave it to me as an addendum just here before the meeting.
Is that the one with the,
That one-
that's the one with the mileage on it?
Right.
Yes.
Oh, did that one come from?
No,
our
that one came,
police chief?
that came from the police chief.
Yeah, that.
And that lists
did
the
not come
mileage
from-
of, I asked for the mileage of, the current mileage of these vehicles, and that's essentially what it says.
But
Those
it-
are, and it starts at 129,000 and goes on down, so it looks like there's about 6 vehicles or 7 vehicles that are over 100,000, and those are hard models. So,
But it says 45,000 each after,
Yes, sir.
in the shaded area.
Councilman Wojcik, that was our budget estimates, and
Okay.
for a total of 180,000. And our original budget figures were 4 police cars for 140, plus another 40,000 for outfitting the cars. So we're actually spending 115 for the 4 cars, plus 33,500 to outfit them. So we're doing it for about $140,000, $40,000 less than we just originally budgeted. So those were just budget projections.
So we're saving like 40 grand.
We're saving 40 grand on the 4
Okay.
cars. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, sir, Mr. Best.
Yeah, we approved the purchase of this equipment and these cars when we approved the budget. We went ahead and approved when you wanted to get a better price using 2013. I would just be wondering if there would be a way that we didn't have to be so redundant on reapproving this again. I mean, it took a lot of paper. This poor tree went ahead and died a couple of times. Yes, Ron, I agree.
You know, I will tell you, we as staff struggle. We're criticized for not providing enough information. So I hate to say it, but we're erring on the side of caution. I
Well, I
apologize for the trees that have to be mowed over. I would love nothing better than to provide a little bit more of an abbreviated version of what we're doing here.
Well, I mean, I appreciate all your work, and as Joe mentioned already, we budgeted so much, and you come in 40,000 less. I think staff is doing a good job and watching our money.
And that's just on the police cars. I should tell you, and Rick from RDO is here, Vanguard Trucking, well, we estimated $180,000 for a 10-wheel dump truck. It's going to come in under $150,000. All of these equipments. In fact, Rick with RDO, Rick Levine is in the audience today. He's providing us with a brand-new loader that is less than what we were estimating the cost of buying a used loader for. So this is, you know, I mean, we're very proud of what we've done by putting this together. I just apologize that it is 3 inches thick.
Well, I mean, I appreciate what you've done. I doubt if many of the council's going to read every page of that statement. They're going to go ahead and go by what you said.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I echo Councilman Best's sentiments. Hopefully, we will, as time passes, we'll be able to cut out some of the redundancy and be able to deal with things one time. So, excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Gritman? No? All right. The chair would entertain a motion then.
motion to approve the purchase of 4 Ford Police Interceptors from Burge Ford in an amount not to exceed $115,473.60, $28,868.40 each. 2 Ford 550 from Burge Ford in the amount not to exceed $111,512.50, or $55,756.25 each. 1 John Deere 544K front-end loader from RDO Equipment in the amount not to exceed $166,503.38, and 1 410K backhoe from RDO Equipment in the amount not to exceed $107,898.66, and 1 10-wheel dump truck from Empire Machinery in an amount not to exceed $180,000, for a combined total of $681,388.14, all financed through a lease purchase agreement with Zion First National Bank.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
one correction to that motion. I don't know how Empire Machinery got into the agenda item, but it's being purchased from Vanguard Trucking Center.
From who?
Vanguard Trucking Center.
Vanguard Truck.
Yep. Okay. Let's make him read the whole thing.
It ain't gonna happen, man.
Vanguard Trucking.
With the amendment of Vanguard Trucking to replace Empire Machinery. Is that correct, Council? Thank you.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item F, consideration and possible action to approve change order number 1 to the existing Yavapai County intergovernmental agreement by $447,020 $447,020 for Phase 1 of the Chino Meadows Flood Control Project for a total project amount of $450,000. Funds to come from Yavapai County Flood Control. Mr. Gritman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is kind of an odd item. This was actually driven by Yavapai County. As you know, we have 3 projects that are being funded through the flood control project. The first one was the Road 3 North drainage improvements, which were completed a year and a half ago. We didn't spend about $2,000. That's why this is an odd number here. Rather than redo a whole new IGA, with the county, what they chose to do is do a change order. And they're changing the IGA that we had under the original project, which was for 3 North, now to occupy and to do what we're going to do over the Chino Meadows Units 2 and 5 drainage project. That project was originally estimated at a little over $1 million, $1,080,000 to be exact. The county said they don't have the money to fund the whole thing. So we had a choice. We could accept half of the project this year with half to come next year. But Mr. Cherry, Dan Cherry, wanted me to make sure we emphasize this is all predicated on funds available from the county. Just like what the council does here, they need to go through their budget processes next year to make sure we can do another $500,000. The anticipation is, and what they're estimating is $500,000 in next year's funding and $450,000 in this year's funding. So we'll do the whole project for $950,000, which we'll get it in that amount of funding availability, but we're going to do it in 2 phases. The first phase will be to construct the box culvert underneath Porcupine Pass and then start widening Little Doggy Draw east of Porcupine Pass, heading towards the Peavine Trail. The second phase of the project will continue that channel widening up, do a new box culvert underneath the Peavine Trail. The existing box there is undermined about 8 feet underneath the existing floor of the box. We get one massive event, the whole thing's going to come down. And then the second part of the phase 2 is to extend a very large detention channel down parallel to the Peavine Trail, but on the east side towards Bright Star. And by doing this, this will alleviate the flooding problems that are currently experienced up along Railroad, Sunset, some of the roads that are up, or some of the areas that are up in Chino Meadows Unit 5.
Okay.
That's the project.
Before I ask for questions from the council, this detention pond down along the Peavine Trail is one that you showed our mayor's ad hoc flood control committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm on the same page. All right, thank you. Any questions on this side for Mr. Gritman? Any questions on this side? No? Excellent. Chair would entertain a motion.
I recommend to approve change order number 1 to the existing Yavapai County intergovernmental agreement by $447,020 for the Phase 1 of the Chino Meadows Flood Control Project.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This is going good. Item G, consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 14-1047, adopting a policy for the prioritization of roadways for the town's annual roadway resurfacing program. And Mr. Gritman, you're on again.
You know, and I apologize for having so many items on the agenda tonight. It's just how it worked out. As you know, for whatever reasons, and I can't really put my finger on it, over the last several years, the resurfacing program has been very controversial. And I'm not quite understanding as to why, because after tonight's presentation, you'll start to see the decision-making processes that we go through. They're not that difficult. But when we put together this spring's or this summer's chip seal program, Mayor, you and the Vice Mayor asked that we take this through the Roads and Streets Committee and create more of a formalized policy, which is what we've done. Some of the things that came out of the Roads and Streets Committee were comments like, don't sacrifice quality for quantity. If we're not going to sacrifice quality for quantity, we're going to do 4 inches of asphalt on 8 inches of AB as a real engineered road, and we're going to do about 1,000 feet a year, which, you know, we'll hit our streets every 400 years, which doesn't work. This town sacrificed quality for quantity when we started putting chip seal on dirt. So the whole notion of quality for quantity just doesn't work. So we've gone through, and I don't want to go through the whole policy, but in short, we look at various criteria when we come up with the annual resurfacing program. But let me go through some photographs, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is a street up in Appaloosa Meadows. You can see, and I'm going to use the pointer here so the people at home can see this. Here's a large longitudinal crack running down the middle of the road. You can see where transverse cracking has occurred, where we've gone in and crack sealed. You can see where the chip seal has come up, and you have these large cornrows, that's what they're called, just linear striations running down the surface of the roadway, where we've lost the chip seal. And you can see that Appaloosa Meadows needs some road maintenance, there's no doubt. As you know, I've used the numbers 1,000 times. We've went from $1.1 million to $90,000 in our chip seal program. This year, we have $170,000 because we're spending some carry forward. Joe actually informed me last week that even next year's budgets are going to be less than $90,000. So we're struggling. We're struggling really hard on how to do our chip seal program here. But let me go through this. So we compare a road that obviously needs some maintenance to this. This is Chino Meadows. This is actually along Judy, Porcupine Pass area as you're heading towards Center Street. It's not too awfully difficult to come up with a criteria of where an Appaloosa Meadows road like this, although again, it needs some maintenance, is 1,000 times better than Damien Loop. Damien Loop would have been done this year had we not been asked to step out of line. But this is Damien Loop. I do like this slide right here because I've heard many, many times about how we need to preserve Appaloosa Meadows because of property values. Take note here. This poor gentleman is selling this is a for sale sign, and that's the road right out in front of his for sale sign. Karen Acres. Again, it's not too awfully difficult. Our needs so far exceed, this is Bumblebee. I like this one in particular because there's actually more cold mix on the road than there is chip seal. When we started the chip seal program, Road 3 North and Road 1 East are examples of where we did this. This was our first time doing it, and it didn't turn out real good. One member of the Roads and Streets Committee made a comment about how we lost a lot of community faith in what we're doing. And my comment to that is, well, we're new to this. We're learning. This was Granada Estates. We now have changed how we do our chip seal program. What we did with Granada Estates, we came in, again, this is chip seal over dirt. So what we're trying to do is create base, create rock underneath this that we put the surface over. Because it's rock is what gives a roadway its structure. It's not the surfacing. Even asphalt doesn't really bridge over base failure underneath it. You'll start to see rutting and shoving and other problems when the base underneath it isn't able to hold up what we're doing. So what we did with Granada Estates, we came in, milled everything up, brought in a milling machine, a big old huge massive machine that literally kneads the ground and just grinds everything up. We brought in 3 inches of AB over the top of it, reshaped, recompacted everything, did a double layer of chip seal with a fog seal over the top of it, and this is the end product. This is now the standard that we're starting to go to. We did this on both Center Street and Granada Estates just to prove that we do know what we're doing. What we did last year was we're trying to stretch our dollars as far as we possibly could and do some single chip seals. It didn't work. We had problems with the boot truck, with the distributor truck, the truck that lays down oil. So we've even changed, so we've gone out to bid, and council's already awarded the bid for Cactus Oil, and they provide the distributor truck. This is the outcome of it. It's working quite well. So while I will somewhat apologize for Road 3 North turning into what it did turn into, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it so that it looks like this at the end of the program. So with that, you have a policy in front of you. The next item is the chip seal program for this entire year coming up. And we won't be coming back to the council for this resurfacing program for the rest of this fiscal year.
Excellent. Before I ask for council input, I wanted to let you know I sat in on the, matter of fact, Vice Mayor Croft and I both attended the last Roads and Streets Committee meeting, and I want our audience to know Mr. Gritman did an excellent job. The citizens that were sitting in on our meeting, they said that he explained it in a way that the average lay person could understand how it is that we do a prioritization of roads, and that's important. We need our citizens to understand that we're not just paving this stretch of road because our cousin lives there, or this stretch of road because it's for whatever reason. There's an actual matrix on how the road is, the actual condition of the road, and then the ones with the highest numbers gain the highest priorities, correct?
Yes, and yeah, we actually have every street rated in this entire town, and if I had $600,000 a year, just half of what we did in 2009, 2008 with this new program, we could actually do a pretty good job of keeping up with the roadway maintenance. We could actually do almost 10 miles a year, which means that we'll be hitting 120 miles. We'll be hitting them once every 10 to 12 years, which is where we need to be. Our needs go so far beyond our budgets right now. It's just crazy. And yeah, the list goes, it's just literally as long as your arm.
You bet. Anyway, I wanted our citizens to know that there is a prioritization, and that's what we're going to be voting on here momentarily. Any questions on this side, from this side of council? Yes, sir.
As far as funding for roads, from state, we get what we call HERF funds, or highway user funds. And you were getting, what, $1 million some odd per year?
Well, we were way over that. And just maintenance alone in 2007.
The legislature swept that money and gave it to the highway patrol folks, to safety.
They swept them from all over the place.
All over the place to fund them, so we now get lucky to get 90,000, which is not going to do much.
Guess who's going to get stopped by the highway patrol on this way home?
I'll just sign the ticket and go home.
Just thought I'd share that with you. Yes, sir.
Ron, tell us a little bit about, what is this resolution for? How does this make it better than the way you're doing it right now, or have in the past?
Quite frankly, it doesn't make it better. All this does is just memorialize what we do. As I said before, when we've brought up these resurfacing programs, they just turned into a lot of controversy over nothing. Again, the need is so far beyond what our budgets are. We're just trying to stay afloat here. And we're trying to come up with new techniques to stretch our dollars as far as possible. Granada Estates, we're running to do that type of chip seal program about $45,000 a mile using in-house forces. The last time we bid this out in 2009, we spent $100,000 a mile. So we're less than half doing it in-house. That's what we're doing in order to stretch these dollars as far as they possibly can go. What we're trying to do is minimize this, the way that this project, every time it comes up, because it'll come up to council every year. Even though council approves the budget, we bring back agenda items that are in conformance with our procurement policies. And we're well over $100,000 on this one, so we have to bring this to you for approval. It just always ended up extremely antagonistic and controversial.
Frustrating is a better word.
And so what we're trying to do is memorialize what we do, explain to council this is the policies that we're going to follow, and then each year we'll come back with a new agenda item that will follow these policies. And that's what the next agenda item actually is. And you'll see that same thing in subsequent years as we do more and more resurfacing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if I, as a citizen, say, why isn't the street in front of my house being paved? You can show me the chart, and I'm say a number 3, and Damien Loop is a number 8, and you say, here's a picture of Damien Loop, and here's a picture of yours. on the matrix, Damian Loop came up as being the next one in line for chip sealing.
And I don't,
Okay.
exactly, but I don't want to minimize the street in front of you, because it probably does need some maintenance. Appaloosa Meadows needs some maintenance, there's no doubt. But when I'm comparing that versus Damian Loop or Karen Acres or Bumblebee, it's a pretty simple decision.
Okay.
It's not this controversial, it's just not this hard.
Okay.
So.
And we just need our public to know that it's not being done arbitrarily.
No, it
It's
is
done
not.
with
We
a
follow a
system.
program.
You bet. Yes, sir.
I just have one question, depending on where you live, if your tenants are affluent enough, could they go ahead and front the money to the town?
The Roads and Streets Committee has wrestled with this, and there's some, that concept was floated out. There's problems associated with it. Let's just say, to go down that path, let's just say that we ask if anybody wants to come up with half the money, that will move you to the top of the list. When will Chino Meadows ever be at that top of the list? Like, never?
Yeah.
And so there's certain problems when you have the more affluent areas able to afford that 50%, and we have our poorest of the poor, that they can barely pay their sewer bill, let alone throw in a little extra money to get their programs up and running, or get their roads up and running. So there's a certain amount of equity that goes into if we go down that path. The Roads and Streets Committee dealt with it. They didn't come up with a definitive, well, in fact, no, as a matter of fact, they did. They actually said that they're recommending that we don't follow that path, that we follow what staff is putting together, what staff has put together here. That was actually the recommendations of the Roads and Streets Committee. So that we not do it that way.
Okay, well, no, I didn't express myself properly. You still do Appaloosa first, but at the end of your work schedule, your programming, I have the money, I go ahead and write you a check, and then you come and do my street afterwards. That didn't work.
No, that doesn't work, because we have such limited amounts of money. Appaloosa Meadows will eat up our $90,000 literally for the next 10 years, in which
No,
case
you're
all
not
the rest
listening.
of the streets are going to go.
You use your 90,000 for wherever you have assigned a number to. And then I write the check for you to use past 90,000.
No, that the Roads and Streets Committee recommended not to do it that way.
Okay.
They recommended not to take outside funding from the citizens in order to move up or even to do any roadway maintenance on their streets. So the committee actually recommended to not do
Okay.
that.
And
That-
Mr. Best, the chairman for the Roads and Streets Committee, is right there. Just thought I would mention that.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I could, I have one other thought to offer there that didn't get covered. The social equity perspective is important, but there's also a financial component. We have limited manpower and limited equipment to be able to get the pavement work done. And there's a limited window of time that we have availability of contractors for the boot truck and the oil. Given the status of our roads the way they stand today, if we don't attack the roads that are approaching critical failures first, and if we spend time on other roads that aren't really approaching critical failure, then we find ourselves facing a wave of replacement, not repair. And the replacements are more expensive, so there's a financial incentive for us to order our repairs in a certain way to avoid replacement. And if we had more manpower and we had more equipment and more availability of supportive resources, you might be able to take that kind of an approach. But right now, there are so many lane miles of critically failing pavement. We're struggling just to address that piece and get it under our belt.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Gritman before we move on? All right. Item G is the one that we're on. The chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt Resolution 14-1047, adopting a policy for the prioritization of roadways for the town's annual roadway resurfacing program.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consideration and possible action to approve the Spring 2015 roadway resurfacing program in an amount not to exceed $170,000 from highway user revenue funds and $50,000 from road impact fees for the streets identified in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The roads that have been identified in the staff report are in conformity with the policies that you've just adopted. We did add one thing that hasn't been brought up, which is actually going to be the extension of Center Street. On your next council agenda, you're going to have the award of the box culvert at Center Street in the Santa Cruz Wash. As you know, then this coming winter, we're going to actually be building Center Street. So what we've tried to cover here is one agenda item that will take us through the entire chip seal program for all of this fiscal year. And it includes both maintenance items, which are the ones that are identified in here, plus $50,000 out of road impact fees that will be used to surface Center Street when that comes up in the, it'll be middle of May.
Excellent. That's one less agenda item. All right.
How nice.
Any other questions for Mr. Gritman? Yes, sir.
The Center Street is going to be outsourced?
No, Center Street will come back to council sometime in December as a declaration of an in-house project in accordance with our procurement policies. And we'll build that road in-house, just like we did 4 South.
And you've already ordered the box culverts, right? They're on order, please?
No, it's on the council agenda for your next meeting to award that.
It was my understanding that they had already been ordered.
No, we actually bid the project September 4th, and those bids will be coming to you on your 23rd meeting. I won't be here for that. Richard will be presenting it. Actually, my wife and I are going to be receiving our daughter coming back from Afghanistan.
Cool,
So,
cool. Most
All right.
excellent.
Yep.
That's good. All right. Well, I'm glad you didn't buy the culverts before we told you to spend the
Did not.
money.
I
didn't think you would.
I don't do that.
All right,
No.
cool. All right, the chair, do we have any questions? Nope.
No.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the Spring 2015 roadway resurfacing program in an amount not to exceed $170,000 from highway user revenue funds and $50,000 from road impact fees for the streets identified in the staff report.
Okay.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do we need a break? We should have a group hug first.
Leave me out of that.
Oh, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break here. We'll reconvene at 20 after, all right?
Okay.
Kidneys are about
I figured your ITs were floating with some of them words you were coming up with.
Don't you want any candy?
I have candy in my hand.
She's been working through the mayor's. He's already been raiding all the candy on the counter. I think she's running from me.
I'll throw your snacks into my purse and then you want to step down here to do it?
Yeah, why don't you, Dawn, would you step down here with us, Dawn? Yeah, you want to? We'll get a, well, take another one. Well, they're frozen, Elizabeth, and we'll try to get Mr. Turner and Mr. Best to come.
I got another snack. I always wondered about
I knew, I had a cleaner when I first came into town.
So right now, she's still healing?
There we go.
All right.
Thank you for coming one more time.
Let's go do business and go home.
Model.
We're not there yet, are we? Daryl. We got 2 more to do before we go.
Mayor Marley, front and center.
You missed. I thought it was going to be a long night, so I came prepared.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. All right. We are now back in session. And I believe we are at item I, the consideration and possible action to adopt resolution number 14-1046, authorizing acquisition of real property for right-of-way purposes for Center Street from Road 1 East to the east side of the Santa Cruz Wash, and accepting the dedication of said property as set forth in the deeds attached to the staff report. Mr. Gritman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm going to look to Phyllis for a large portion of this item too, because with having new attorneys, we have new processes that are coming on. And while we've never really done a resolution like this, we've not done too many projects where we're extending new real roads either. So what this is, it's a resolution that does a series of things. It authorizes, it gives formal authorization from the council to begin the right-of-way acquisition process, which quite frankly we've already been doing, that is verified by all the legal descriptions that you have in each one of these 2 items. Associated with this is both the authorization as well as the acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
It does outline authorizing condemnation, but I'm telling you, we're not going to begin any eminent domain processes under what this resolution actually does.
Mm-hmm.
If we go down the path of eminent domain, we will do all kinds of things to avoid it. First of all, it'll be our last form of property acquisition. We will bring those items to you if there is needed eminent domain, but those will be done separately and not actually part of the authorization of this resolution. All we're doing right now is trying to create something that formally authorizes council's formal authorization of staff to acquire the right-of-way, and through this resolution, it will accept it as these rights-of-way come in.
Okay.
The rights-of-way must be in accordance with the legal descriptions that are in here, because that's what your resolution is predicated on. Any changes to those, it'll have to come back.
Okay.
So that's all this item is.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification too, because our public needs to know that we're not out doing the eminent domain thing. We want to avoid that at all costs. And I believe you guys are actively pursuing. I believe there's just one segment in the Center Street, one segment and one that we're going to be dealing with that are still in negotiations, and
Yes.
you're making progress, correct?
Everybody has been contacted. Everybody's aware. They all have their deeds. They all have the legal descriptions that are in here.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks have already signed. Some folks are saying we're having our attorneys review them. Some folks are saying we still need to think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
But all we're doing is trying to bring this resolution along so that the box culvert can get started here. We already have all the rights of way for the box culvert that can actually move forward without this. But we're trying to keep the project moving so that as the winter comes, that I'm not doing these types of right-of-way acquisitions or right-of-way acceptances while we're bringing forward the declaration of an in-house project. We want to keep these things separate and keep them moving forward so that their own little piles are all finished up as we get done here.
Okay, and one more clarification. This is similar to what we were doing down on Kalinich Road insofar as there were easements, but they had not been formally accepted by the town, so now we're formally accepting them. Is that correct? or no?
No, they're not like, they're not like One East. The
Okay.
One East stuff was dedications that were made decades ago.
Okay.
All we're doing is accepting the rights of way that are already currently defined in this resolution.
Okay.
And so these are all new rights of way acquisitions. We have new, we're a little bit more clear and defined than what happened in '86.
Okay,
So
excellent.
this will be a little bit cleaner,
All right.
a lot
And-
cleaner.
Any questions on this side?
Nope.
Ms. Smiley, did you have something or no?
Mayor, really, I don't have too much to add to what Ron said. There are some differences, like he said, between Road 1 East, which was easements that were dedicated to the county years ago, in 1986, I believe. This is the town acquiring fee title to the right-of-way. So once the title is transferred to the town, it will be the town as the owner of the property. So unlike Road 1 East, the property owners, the underlying property owners who retain the easements still have to pay taxes and they still have some liability. In this case, they will be parcels owned by the town. The town will not pay taxes because the town's a municipality, but the town will be fully responsible for any liability if any accidents occur there. And one reason why we're bringing this to council as a resolution authorizing the purchase or accepting the dedication or authorizing acquisition by condemnation is so that when the title company looks at it, because now the title company will be getting title insurance on these parcels to ensure that the town gets good title. The title company needs to know why staff is out there purchasing this land. And this says formally that the council has authorized staff to do this, and they're not just out there spending the town's money without any authority. So
Okay.
that's why.
Excellent, thank you.
And there is just a bit of a clarification, because we are going to be acquiring this, as Phil says, fee title. This is going to be going to public right-of-way. So it's not like Old Home Manor, which is town-owned property. This is public right-of-way, which means APS now has a right to put an electric facility in there. We no longer have the right to simply deny anybody access to this like we would at Old Home Manor. We can't put up no trespassing signs on Center Street. This will become public right-of-way.
Okay,
So,
excellent,
yeah.
excellent. All right, any question? Yes, sir.
Does the council get any chance to approve the amount of money we're spending for the various rights of way?
Only if it changes our procurement limits. But I can tell you, right now, today, we're actually, all the property we've already acquired, there's been no money exchanged. There's been no change of, no money has exchanged hands. We have limits, I think it's whatever, $15,000 under our procurement processes. We're under our regular procurement processes of where we dole money out to somebody.
So it's not like 4 South was?
No. We're talking just literally a few $1,000s at best. I mean, we're talking just fractions of, it's just normal operation dollar figures that we're talking about here.
Okay.
If we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, again, that'll all have to come back to council. If we're talking about spending millions of dollars with Ms. Smiley's firm on going through condemnation, that will all be coming back to council.
Okay.
Because it's funny, because one of the lines that we always use when we're talking to folks is, we will offer money over and above what the appraised values are that are less than the condemnation values, because why make the attorneys rich? I would rather, give the money to a little bit here or there and avoid condemnation. Condemnation is truly our our absolute last resort. We will do everything we can to avoid it.
All right, excellent. Follow-up question? Mr. Best, did you have any?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right, the chair would entertain a motion.
Recommend a motion to adopt Resolution 14-1046 and accept the dedications of real property as set forth in the deeds attached to the staff report.
Second it?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consideration and possible action to accept right-of-way dedications for Road 1 East between Road 4 South and Calanich Avenue, Brownlow Avenue, Road 4.5 South, and Calanich Avenue. Before you go into this, I was troubled about Brownlow
Yeah.
Avenue.
Where's it at?
Yeah.
I'll explain that a little bit more. I actually have a picture on this one because it's a little bit more complicated. What you see not in color here along this area was part of the 86 dedications that was made to the county and all that was handled when the council accepted that months ago. What we're talking about now is across Carsick's piece up here, across Windy Plaza's piece right here. This is, in the past, we've been calling it just Windy Plaza Road. The folks that own Windy Valley Plaza didn't want the road named after their plaza. They had a particular relationship with a former county supervisor, Gerald Brownlow, and so they asked if we could name this road Brownlow. So the town doesn't name the roads. Actually, the roads get approved through the Yavapai County because of emergency response. You can't have a whole bunch of Meadowview lanes all over the town. They have to be specific. So we recommended 3 names to the county. They approved Brownlow and said nothing else has been used. But in the past, we've been calling it Windy Plaza right here. This is Road 4.5 South, and then this is Calanich down here. And if any of you don't know, this road is actually, we proposed the name after a former town employee. Emil Calanich used to mow our facilities when I was here in 98 to 2000. And Emil had been here since Moses was a baby. And so we just really wanted to do something in honor of him. He's still alive, and so we just wanted to do something in honor of Emil, and that's where Calanich came from. This is a little bit different. For Road 1 East and these other, there's going to be one more round of resolution and acceptance of rights-of-way between 3 South and 4 South for the total 1 East project. The reason why is because, as I said, we already have these 2 properties down here have already dedicated. We're in the final throes of dealing with Mr. Carsick up here. He has Phyllis's agreement, and he's butchered that up substantially, and it's going to be going back to Phyllis, but that agreement will be coming back to you at a later date to actually approve the agreement. But we have, all the rest of these dedications are all voluntary. The people want this roadway to go through. So we're trying to bring these rights-of-way dedications in complete packets, but it's not the entire project because there's a lot of work to be done between 3 South and 4 South. Okay. There's actually going to be some old dedications where we're going to be abandoning back to folks. And we need to be sitting down with them and having lots of meetings and discussing that. It's important to remember the timeline on Road 1 East and all these other roads. We committed to having this completed 6 months after ADOT finishes the 89 project. The 89 project will finish in August of 15. So we still have into 16 before we're even committed to finishing these. So time is not quite as of the essence on 1 East and these other streets as what it is on Center Street and other roads that we've committed to constructing for various reasons. So you will see one more of these resolutions come through. It probably won't be for 9 months to a year until we get to meet with the folks up between 3 South and 4 South and explain to them exactly what we're doing here. It is a little bit complicated up in that stretch there.
Okay. So, just a quick question, or are you finished?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Just a quick question or clarification, I guess, for our audience at home. We, first of all, have to decide that we are going to build X road, and we have to do that by a resolution, and then that authorizes the folks to come in and survey where those rights-of-way are. Is that basically the sequence? It's not quite that formalized. Basically, the council agreed to committing to build these roads when we signed the IGA with ADOT. What we're doing now is coming through in a more formalized process, both authorizing the acquisition of the rights-of-way and the acceptance, just like it was on Center Street, everything else.
And the same thing goes for eminent domain here. We will not be exercising eminent domain until the absolute last resort, which I don't think we're going to need to anywhere along here on this piece. So it's not quite as formal as what you just laid out. It's close, but as I said, basically when we approved the IGA with ADOT and they agreed to put in the $1 million roundabout at Kallenich, we pretty much agreed that we need to hold up our end of the bargain here. And so that's what all of this is the start of, or continuation of, I should say, continuation of. And as I should say, what you see in blue there, we are also acquiring fee title. As Phyllis said, same thing on Center Street. It will become town property. It will be declared right-of-way, public right-of-way, so APS will have rights to it and everything else. What you see in not colored in the various hatched areas along there, those are easements that came out of the 86 stuff that was done back in the county.
All right.
That's it.
Any questions from council? No. I had one quick one. On pages 416 and 417, where it looks like the surveyor had hiccups when he was laying out the lines, that's going to be cleaned up, is it not?
Well, hiccups like that exist out in the real world.
Okay.
We have offsets all the time, and in short, what you have here are the final legal descriptions that are necessary to fit the roadway in. So while there may be a hiccup in the actual right-of-way, there's no hiccup in the roadway.
Okay.
And what people don't recognize is, for example, up on 4 North and 1 East, that big offset right there, is a hiccup in, if you will, to use your technical term there, in the surveying of the world that happened. When you try to lay a grid out on a sphere, you frequently get those offsets that occur. And hiccups that show up in these types of legal descriptions make the appearance on the legal that they're offset. They actually line up with each other just fine, and when the roadway's done, you'll never notice any of this stuff. You may notice a jog in a fence, but that'll be it.
I every time I drive down Road 4 North, heading out towards Yuma, I think they ought to make those guys be sober before they survey.
We actually have on the, just kind of a long-term to-do list is to fix all of those different offsets that are happening at 4 North and Reed, 4 North, 4.5 North and Reed, 4 North and 1 East. There's another one as you head farther down Road 1 or Road 4 North into that area towards Doreen's up in that area. There's another offset again. Those are all surveying offsets. And it's just, again, what you get when you try to lay a square on a sphere. They don't quite set evenly.
Okay.
So
it's not the end of the world. It puzzles me how a road can go all over like that.
And again, when we get done with the roadway, you may have a slight S-curve in it, but you'll not notice anything. It'll drive like you normally would drive. We don't do those offsets like 1 East and 4 North anymore.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions?
Well, I just would like to comment. I'm glad that the road over Jerome isn't straight, because it'd be real boring on a motorcycle.
All right. There you go. Cool. Well, the chair would now entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the right-of-way dedications for Road 1 East between Road 4 South and Kallenich Avenue, Brownlow Avenue, Road 4.5 South, and Kallenich Avenue.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The council may now vote to recess the regular meeting and hold an executive session, which will not be open to the public for the following purposes. Pursuant to ARS 38431.03A1 for discussion or consideration of employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, demotion, dismissal, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of the town attorney.
Item B is pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4 for discussion or consultation with the town attorney in order to consider its position and instruct the town attorney regarding the town's position regarding a settlement and release agreement that is the subject of negotiations related to the construction manager at risk contract between the town of Chino Valley and Fan Contracting Incorporated dated June 12, 2003, and all amendments thereto. And item C pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1 for discussion or consideration of employment, assignment, appointment, demotion, dismissal, disciplining, or resignation of Planning and Zoning Commissioners Michael Edmonds and Robert McCauley. The chair would entertain a motion to recess to the regular.
Move to
meeting.
recess to executive session.
Okay.
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're now. You got it? That's 100 pounds of paper. Got it.
You gotta go. You're blocking the door, but how can you get it?
Okay.
Praise God. He's looking over us tonight.
He's looking over us tonight. You know what?
If anybody says there isn't, I'm gonna
Okay, there we go. Okay, don't do anything.
Super.
Like I got my new one now.
The zebra?
Yeah.
All right. Here we are again.
I'll use my new one here.
Oh, my
Okay,
God, you woke me
We're
up.
now back in session. Action items resumed. Item 9A is consideration and possible action to terminate the appointment and remove Commissioners Michael Edmonds and/or Robert McCauley from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The chair would entertain a motion.
Move to terminate the appointment and remove Commissioners Michael
Edmonds,
Edmonds and
Robert
Robert McCauley from office,
Okay, from the Planning and Zoning
from the
Commission.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
Second it.
We have a motion and 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I like that.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Yeah, Mike, I had a chance to do some of
Okay.
it when you were gone.
Oh.
Meeting adjourned.
Well, I thought you would do it tonight when you were doing roads and streets. You know,
No,
that
no,
was
no.
your-